A very warm welcome to all our panelists also. I see everyone is joined. So let's dive in. So today we're here for the webinar titled Unlocking Opportunities, Ecosystem-Based Adaptation for Land Restoration. So thank you all for joining and sparing time for this important discussion, especially because we mark this webinar on behalf of UNCCD's Desertification and Drought Day and the EBA Knowledge Day that just happened last week. So it's a moment to reflect, come together and reflect on not just the scale of land degradation that we're seeing globally, but also on the solutions that are already within reach. And today's conversation is rooted in this powerful idea. Restoring ecosystems is not only an ecological imperative, but we truly believe that it's a social and an economic opportunity. And ecosystem based adaptation, or EBA as it is known, offers a nature based and people centric pathway to reverse land degradation, to enhance biodiversity, and to also strengthen the resilience of vulnerable communities in the face of climate change. So, from different approaches, right, from reviving traditional water systems to promoting agroecological practices, EBA honestly covers a lot of different methodologies as well as problem areas and can align climate resilience with livelihood security. And I think that is something we really take pride in and focus on all our projects and approaches. Scaling these efforts, though, demands more than just good intent. It calls for supportive policy. There's inclusive governance that has to be put in place, along with innovative finance mechanisms. And of course, at the heart of it all is deep collaboration across sectors and across disciplines. So, over the next 90 minutes, we are all going to hear from a really nice panel of experts and practitioners who are working at the intersection of all these issues. And our goal today is to deepen our collective understanding of what it takes to unlock the full potential of ecosystem based adaptation. While this is a long word, we'd like to just focus on the idea of land restoration. So, most importantly, how can we support communities to lead the way in restoring their landscapes and our collective futures as well? We have a diverse panel. I'll come to them and introduce them one by one as well. But I think to begin with, I'd like to um, hand over to my colleague Faraz Rupani to open the webinar and present findings from a really nice research that he recently has published. Faraz is a research associate and works in economics at WCRES, which is a think tank under the Watershed Organization Trust. And over to you now, Faraz. I'll just share my screen.
Thank you, Sanika. Okay, thank you so much, Sanika. A very good evening to everyone. I'll be talking about a recent study that we concluded in semi-arid region of Maharashtra. So I'll be talking about one region specifically to understand about the impact that has been created because of the watershed development work that we have. Sanika, if you can move to the next slide, you can see a very So if you can see this picture, this looks like a very water-stressed and ecologically fragile location. So this is the situation when we visited Akole in the month of April in the year 2010. So the village is Khatki Budruk in Akole block, and the situation looks quite concerning when we went there. So what we did here was we started doing watershed development, different initiatives that we usually run under watershed development. Sanika, can you move to the next slide, please? So the location that you can see here is we have worked in 6 villages across Akole and Sangamner block. We also have control villages doing any watershed development work. But for this particular presentation, I'm going to focus more on the Akole block, the hilly the project villages, and a control village as Shinde. So the project intervention started in the year 2010 and it went on till 2014. The study has been conducted from 2010 till 2019. So Moving to the next slide, uh, there are different watershed initiatives that we had undertaken. So this basically focusing more on the soil and the land aspect of it. So we started doing soil and water conservation, which had check dams, bunds, gully plugs, farm ponds, etc. We focused on sustainable agricultural practices because majorly the communities over there are into agriculture. So we focused more on eco-friendly farming. The next was ensuring that the farmers have good irrigation practices. So promotion of drip and sprinkler systems were also given to the communities. We had watershed stewardship initiatives, which was focusing more on the community-led budgeting of water in order to ensure that everybody has equal access to water. Capacity building initiatives were undertaken in order to include everybody in the. So the impact that you can see in the next image in this is the 2010 image, which I showed you previously as well, shows a very poor situation of the village. After this, the initiative which was taken up, if you can see the vegetation cover from the image itself, you can see things have changed quite drastically in this particular village. Now, just looking at this image, you can understand the changes that are happening visually. But when we went out to do a better research of this in order to understand what is the impact that the communities are getting out of it, in the next slide, if you can see that there are multiple benefits the communities are getting. Primarily starting with the agricultural benefit, which is the main livelihood for the communities. You can see that 55% gross cropped area has increased in Khatki Budruk, whereas it has only increased 7% in the control village of Shinde. So that shows that doing watershed development initiatives focusing on soil and land management is actually increasing the gross crop area. That means farmers are taking up more agricultural crops in different seasons, allowing them to have better livelihoods. The fallow land has also decreased drastically in the treatment villages in comparison to the control villages, wherein we are not observing much reduction in the fallow lands. The productivity definitely, because the irrigation systems have improved, farmers are getting more access to water. The productivity has also increased, reaching more than 50% for paddy and chickpea specifically. Farmers who were just focusing more on paddy and chickpea now can also take up summer crop like groundnut as well. So the communities are now getting a chance to change or include additional crop in their entire agricultural season, allowing them to earn more livelihood or a better livelihood. So this is also again related to different sustainable development goals that we have, wherein the thing of zero hunger or no poverty is also, we're progressing towards that as well in these particular villages. Moving to the next slide, water is something that is very important for each one of us. So what we have observed in the treatment village is that the farmers are now getting more access to water for irrigation, allowing them to cultivate more. The treatment villages did not have to rely on tankers, whereas the control village was still relying on water tankers during summer months. That's a concerning thing for this village because they do not have much access to the water during summer season. In terms of land and soil restoration, you can also see that in the image wherein the vegetation cover has increased quite much in these treatment villages. In comparison to the control villages, the vegetation cover has not much increased. When we moved further in order to understand the nitrogen loss that was happening, treatment villages saw a reduction in the nitrogen loss because of the watershed development initiatives that we had taken, whereas because no of increase was observed in the control village of Shinde. Moving to the next slide, for any initiative to be very successful, like Sanika also mentioned, engagement of the community is extremely important. And when we did this particular study, we observed that 98% of the survey household that we studied were engaged in some or the other aspect of sustainable land management practices, which shows that the communities now have the willingness to continue forward the entire initiative that was taken up few years back. And now also the village development communities, the committees are still active in this particular villages. That shows that the communities are still willing to take forward the work that was done previously. Now, the main thing that comes out of this, the number of figures that I mentioned previously, what is the actual impact the communities are getting out of it in terms of money? So when we studied this, we got that the communities are actually getting a return of up to rupees 316 when an investment of rupees 100 is being done. That shows that the communities are getting three times more income. Now, there are indirect benefits and direct benefits as well. Now, everything was accounted for doing this particular study, and we realized that the communities can get up to three times the returns, whereas the control village of Shinde was hardly getting 1.69 times of returns. So that means these interventions can definitely improve the livelihoods of the communities that are engaged into it. Now, moving to the last slide that I have, India has a lot of potential in the agriculture sector or different sectors that we have. But the major concern India now has is the amount of land degradation that is there. Now, the Ministry of Environment released these figures stating that 96.4 million hectares of land is degraded already in India, which is 2.8 times of Rajasthan, which is the largest state in India. And India is actually losing 3 lakh crores every year, which is $38 billion. Now, if we want to revive all of this, we need sustainable soil and land management initiatives, which requires sustainable investments like Sanika mentioned in the beginning. And what is going to be the return out of it? It is going to be more better economic resilience for the communities. India has been a champion towards climate change actions. So wherein India is claiming that they would also like to reach 26 million hectares of restored land by 2030. So for that, we need more investment, uh, fight against climate action, and also the communities can get longer returns like we did after the interventions were completed in 2014. When we did the study after that, we saw that the communities are still getting good returns out of it. So this is the impact that any intervention can create when it is done in a sustainable way and including the communities in any action that is being taken. Thank you everyone for this presentation.
Thanks Faraz. Very insightful. And most importantly, I think the numbers really just put everything in context because just relying on qualitative data sometimes is not enough. We need to see. And there might be discussion and debates about what they mean and what the impact they have. But there's no room for doubt in the fact that there is a positive impact with these management practices. Moving on, I don't want to waste time because we have a really nice panel. And based on this little quick introduction that all our participants have just seen, I'd like to introduce you all to the panel that we have put together today. So first and foremost, very warm welcome to Dhruvi Shah. Dhruvi is the executive trustee and CEO of Axis Bank Foundation. They support livelihood promotion for rural communities across India. And ABF, Axis Bank Foundation, works closely with not-for-profit partners to foster community-centric programs. They intentionally design these to sustain long-term economic growth. Dhruvi is also the co-author of the Book of Aspiration and mentors several social enterprises focused on inclusive development and sustainability. Next, we have Hemant Kumbhare, Deputy General Manager of the Farm Sector Development Department at NABARD, Maharashtra. Welcome, sir. And he brings extensive experience in conceptualizing and monitoring large-scale rural infrastructure and development projects under RIDF and the Tribal Development Fund. He's also been working on watershed development programs across India. And his experience spans natural resource management, project appraisals and executions, along with various stakeholder exchange as well as engagement in an institutional capacity building manner. So he's presently also a faculty at Bird in Kolkata, where he trains officers in topics ranging from FPOs and banking to project formulation and NRM. Moving on, we have Rajendra Zagade also with us. He's a seasoned development professional with over 25 years of experience in planning and implementing community-led projects in rural Maharashtra. He is the executive director of Sanjeevani Institute for Empowerment and Development, also known as SEED, and has led transformative work in participatory watershed development, soil and water conservation, as well as climate resilient agriculture. His approach emphasizes inclusive governance, local ownership, and long-term sustainability. Some of these principles which have helped improve agricultural productivity and water security for thousands of farmers. Next, we also have Vikram Singh Karamkar, and we're very happy to have him join us. He's a farmer and grassroots leader from Karamkarwadi village. Um, he spearheads the Sri Datta Panlod Vikas Samiti, which is a powerful example of community-driven ecosystem restoration. We'd really like to hear his own experiences as he's been active in the community in land restoration efforts and is also steward of all these measures and practices that we've been discussing through Faraz's presentation as well as what we'll be discussing on the panel today. So welcome everyone, and I'll now hand over to my colleague Dr. Sharanya Chattopadhyay to take this forward.
Yeah. So welcome everybody, and thank you so much, Nika. We often wonder what makes a land restoration project click, because there are so many things that can go wrong, and at the very same time, there are so many things that can go right. And so there are lots of stakeholders when you talk about this kind of large projects. And so there are lots of questions associated with it, that what are the exact returns from these projects in terms of the economic or ecological impacts or the social co-benefits? Or can the infrastructure development suffice, or do we need to opt for a more holistic ecosystem-based approach? So there are lots of questions everywhere. So to begin with this, in this next sessions, I will invite each of our panelists to offer a 5-minute opening reflections. And we kindly request everyone to stay within the time limit so that we have ample room for further discussions and interactions. So I will begin our discussion with Mr. Bikram Singh Kalamkar. तो विक्रम सिंह जी, आपके गांव में आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस है ये वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट के बारे में, आप उसके बारे में, उसके पहले क्या हुआ था ड्यूरिंग द प्रोजेक्ट, क्या क्या हुआ गांव में, एंड उसके बाद जो चेंजेस आपने देखा है, आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस है, आप उस चीज के बारे में हम लोगों को कुछ बता सकते हैं?
ये हमारा जो गांव है, मतलब हमारा विलेज जो पूरा ड्राई एरिया में है, यहाँ पर वाटरशेड का कार्य काम होने से पहले रोजगार भी नहीं था। हमारे सारे गांव के किसान जो थे, आजू बाजू में के गांव में जाके अपना पेट संभालते थे, पेट के लिए कमाते थे। लेकिन जब से वाटरशेड का काम हुआ, तब से खेती तो बढ़िया हुई, पानी का संकलन हुआ, और जो भी उसके बाद जो भी आपके वाटरशेड के माध्यम से जो जो एनजीओ आए, मतलब वातावरण अनुकूल वातावरण के बारे में जो काम करने का एनजीओ वाटरशेड आया, वाटर आया, वाटर की वजह से हमारे खेती में बदलाव हुआ। लोग रासायनिक खाद जो डालते थे, खाद उसमें अब जो नैसर्गिक खाद है, मानो गांडूल खाद जैसा खाद हो, और जो जो आपने उपक्रम बताए, वो सब हम डाले हुए, सब लोग इसका इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं। उसके सेहत पर अच्छा परिणाम हो रहा है ना। अभी रासायनिक खादों के बारे में सभी जन जागृति कर रहे हैं, तो हमने ये वाटर के माध्यम से हमने पहले ही शुरू कर दिया, और उसका खेती का रिजल्ट भी अच्छा आ रहा है। और अभी हमारे गांव का रोजगार बढ़ गया है, हमारी नई पीढ़ी है। हमने उसके बाद वाटरशेड का काम हमारे साथ 25 साल पहले हमारे गांव में हुआ था, उसके बाद वाटर ने काम किया। और अभी 19-20 में जो आमिर खान जी का वाटर कप जो हुआ पानी के बारे में, उसमें भी हमने हिस्सा लिया। जो महाराष्ट्र में उनका स्पर्धा चल रहा था ना, उसमें हम हिस्सा लिया, और उसके बारे में इतना अच्छा काम किया। हम तालुका लेवल पे दोनों साल 18 और 19 दो नंबर का हमने प्राइज लिया। इसका हमारे नई पीढ़ी, नया युवक युवती और पुराने लोग, उनका सलाह लेते हुए हमने ये बढ़िया काम किया। और ये आज आजू बाजू के गांव ही नहीं, महाराष्ट्र में भी हमारे और विजिटर यहाँ आते हैं और हमारा काम देख के प्रभावित हो जाते हैं। पुराने लोगों ने तो किया, अब नई पीढ़ी भी ये काम कर रही है। इसलिए हमको ये अच्छा काम आपके वाटर शेड से माध्यम से मिला है, और इसका हम बहुत बहुत अब इसका हम सभी को, जिन्होंने काम किया उनको भी, और नई पीढ़ी को भी हमको इसका राहत मिल रही है, अच्छा इनका फायदे मिल रहे हैं अभी। हेलो।
हाँ, आप एक चीज बताइए, आप लोगों
हाँ
के गांव में ये जो वाटरशेड का काम हुआ है, इसके वजह से आपने और
हाँ
क्या-क्या चेंजेस देखा है? क्योंकि देखिए सब लोग तो खेती नहीं करते हैं, तो ऐसे भी लोग होंगे जो खेती
हाँ
नहीं करते हैं, उन लोगों को भी कुछ फायदा मिला इससे?
हाँ, निश्चित रूप से मिला है मैडम। जो खेती नहीं करते हैं, लेकिन उनका पारिवारिक जो है स्तर है वो बड़ा है। कुछ लोगों को गांव छोड़ना पड़ा था इसके पहले। अभी ठीक है, नई खेती तो नई खेती का उत्पन्न नहीं मिल रहा है, लेकिन गांव में कुछ ना कुछ उसको अभी उसकी वजह से कोई नया धंधा मिल रहा है, वो गांव में स्टे हुआ है। और कुछ बहुत सारी चीजें हैं इसके, और धंधा बढ़ गया है। किसी का खेती नहीं है तो वो कोई गाय पालन कर रहा है, दूध का धंधा कर रहा है। और कोई बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, वो सभी का मूल पानी हुआ और वाटरशेड का काम हुआ। अभी इन्वायरमेंट के आधारित जो भी आपके उपक्रम हुए हैं ना, उसकी वजह से हमारे यहाँ बारिश कितना हुआ, इस बारिश के पानी कितना बचा, अपने पास कितना पानी है, आगे का प्लान हम क्या कर सकते हैं, इसकी सभी बारीकी जानकारी आपके उपक्रम से मिली है और इससे बढ़िया दिलासा राहत हम सभी को मिल रही है। और हमारे सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात हमारे लिए ये है, हमको इनकम सोर्स आगे मिल गया है। हमारे हमारे गांव छोड़ने वाले लोग अभी गांव में रहते हैं।
बहुत धन्यवाद विक्रम सिंह जी। तो पहले फराज was narrating a story, a case study about what happened. एंड जब विक्रम सिंह जी जो बात कर रहे हैं ये एकदम उसी लाइन पे है कि जब हम लोग वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट के काम करते हैं या फिर लैंड एंड वाटर मैनेजमेंट में काम करते हैं तो हम लोगों को बहुत सारा फायदा मिलता है। एंड विक्रम सिंह जी एक ऐसे इंसान है जिनको डायरेक्टली ये बेनिफिट मिला है, उन्होंने खुद एक्सपीरियंस किया है कि चेंजेस क्या क्या होता है। और आगे हम लोग जो इस डिस्कशन को लेके जाएंगे उसमें भी हम लोग बहुत सारे अलग अलग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, पर्सपेक्टिव से इसी चीज को हम लोग देखने वाले हैं। तो धन्यवाद विक्रम सिंह जी। हम लोग इसके बाद नेक्स्ट हम लोग जाएंगे राजेंद्र जी के पास। राजेंद्र जी, आप हमें बता सकते हैं दैट कुड यू जस्ट शेयर योर इनसाइट्स और एक्सपीरियंस, क्योंकि आप भी बहुत सालों से यू आर involved in designing and implementing this integrated watershed and land restoration initiatives in rural Maharashtra. So can you just tell us about that experience, that what did you experience, your journey?
Okay. Actually, there is a lot of experience. I am not sure whether I will be able to compress that in 5 minutes, but I will try my best. Uh, I have been working in this field since last 25 years and have worked in different parts of Maharashtra specifically, like Marathwada, Western Maharashtra, North Maharashtra, and all parts of, and including the presentation one which you showed, Kharki Budruk, I have also worked in that particular village also when climate change adaptation project was being implemented there. So specifically when you're asking me about the experience, so we used to start right from selection of the degraded village itself. So selection criteria for a particular village to be undertaken under the development was first thing. And in that degraded, poor, and needy villages was our criteria, where there is water scarcity, there is a need for livelihood, there is a need for fodder security, and all those things. And first thing was used to be community comes together. They realize that there is a problem with natural resources, degradation, and ongoing soil erosion is there, and they need some support of that. Plus, some qualifying criteria, like once they are ready to come together, they need to prove in the action, like qualifying shramdans, which are not being paid at all. So they need to work for 4 continuous days, all the qualifying families from the village. And then once they are doing that, the community needs to be at the center of all developmental efforts. So for that, we need to make them aware about the what needs to be done and who needs to be at the forefront of this developmental intervention. And in that case, community is there and NGO like water or seed is there to help them out. So first thing, planning, right from planning, understanding what needs to be done in the village or watershed or ecosystem that was there. And our work used to start from micro watershed of the particular village or bigger watershed. And then we used to have the work which is focused more on soil and water conservation work. In that, starting from ridge to valley, because once you treat the land from beginning from the ridge and you approach to the valley, it used to be in a systematic way. Otherwise, earlier to this kind of approach, there used to be a work in staggered manner, and it did not at all result in expected outcomes of the project. So starting from the ridge to valley, that was the principle in which land having more slope used to be treated with treatments like continuous contour trenching, water absorption trenches, gully plugging, all that. Coming down to the hill slope is a moderate slope area where contour bunding and stone outlets used to be there, and that area in future needs to be brought under cultivation. And the last part is a moderately or less slope area where cultivation is being done. So in this kind of approach, we also used to plant trees which are locally available and which are locally survivable in that area, plus grass seeding, fodder varieties, and also advise the farmers to go for crop cultivation in a manner that shifting or crop rotation should be there, not monocropping and all. Plus, avoid making use of chemical fertilizers, making use of insecticides, pesticides, and rather go for natural solutions like organic fertilizers, integrated pest management, and also different kind of locally available solutions like compost farming and all that. So this used to be approach where community used to take care of their own resources, regenerate them, manage them. And in this process, we also used to form local CBOs, community-based organizations, and build their capacities in training, exposure visits, and building their management skills, and also giving them rights, I would say rights to manage their own what's development projects, including finances. So there is to be a rights as well as responsibility, and giving them training. And this was particularly very important when any NGO or any organization like water leaves from the village after the completion of the project. That project needs to be continued even after our withdrawal. And for that, this capacity building of communities was very important aspects. And even in that, we also used to insist that some youth should be there, because the people, there should be a transfer of knowledge or experience and learning from one generation to other generation. So this kind of local CBO capacity building was very important, even including women in decision making process, right from net planning, implementation, crop planning, family decision about what need to be cultivated in the particular farm was also there. Plus some other aspect like self-help group formation, trainings, and all those things were also there. And biodiversity conservation, taking note of the biodiversity things while planning any implementation intervention was also very important. And while doing this, we also need to form a stakeholder network with linkages with government department, linkages with banks, insurance companies, seed companies, and all those things, so that there is a whole chain or network of the stakeholders which are very important for that particular project needs to be sustained even after our withdrawal. So that kind of experience was there. A lot of things still to be had, but I think I should not run out of time. So that was my experience.
थैंक यू सो मच राजेंद्र जी, आपने एकदम टाइम मैनेज करके आपने बहुत सारा अपने एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया. इट इज रियली enriching and inspiring as well for people like us who are just working in this field. It's very enriching. Thank you so much. So next,
Yes, thank you.
I will approach Ms. Dhruvi Shah from Axis Bank Foundation. So, Dhruvi, you have been working in this field for so long, and Axis Bank Foundation, starting from 2006, you begin with education and trauma care. And from there, you have shifted to this rural livelihood and watershed development, and also livestock enhancement and capacity building. So, in this journey, how do you see the role of CSR in this regard?
In the regard of land management?
uh, you were working in the field of rural livelihood, but as we all know that in India right now the amount of degradation is happening, so these rural livelihoods are also dependent on land and water, soil. So how do you align your views or your CSR experience till now with rural livelihoods and this changing scenario of land and water management?
So, as the context was set, that land and water resources are very critical to both how people are able to live and their livelihoods. Mm, so majority of the work, whether CSR is a catalytic fund, it's a very small fund. The size of the fund is very tiny when it comes to looking at the larger development fund. So the fund, and we try and use our fund in conjunction with every other funding that is flowing in to a particular area. So when we specifically talk of rural development, there are large government programs that are operational. Narega and SRLM, both of them focus on developing livelihoods. We use our fund as a catalytic fund to see how best we can use the resources available for the betterment or improving livelihoods for the community. This, of course, means that there is a lot of work that happens on land. and water, and agriculture and agri-allied livestock, horticulture, which all form part of income or basket of livelihood for the community. So it's not a land management approach. Uh, Land management is required to derive livelihoods out of it, and to sustain those livelihood, there are attempts made to ensure that it happens in a sustainable manner, which means, see, sustainability is not a finishing line. There are several. It's a fairly complex ecosystem. So attempts are made to see that the degradation is reduced, it does not happen again, uh, through a lot of community stewardship and ownership. But the degree is very, very different in different locations, depending on very local situations and other external influences that happen. For example, if people are going to migrate and go away, and they do not see a future in staying in the village, then there is no interest in protecting the land or water resources, right? Versus a situation where there is a resident family and there is interest at a community level. Individual interest does not happen. So there's a lot of alignment that needs to happen in a particular area, and that is an attempt. We work with organizations, NGOs who are based with the community and carry a certain approach with the community, more to drive the sustainability aspect. But it's a challenging affair, and there are different kinds of priorities that keep emerging time to time. So trying to balance this becomes the key role of all the local stakeholders. So that is how we try and see this solution. But this is very different than coming from the lenses of land management. If you go with the lens of land management, then the strategies have to be very, very different.
Thank you so much, Dhruvi. It was really interesting because you captured a very different perspective to it. Next, I will approach Mr. Hemant Kumare. You have been working in this field for so long, and you have worked starting from Odisha and now in Maharashtra. You have a long experience. So, from that experience, what can you share with us? Please share with us some of your stories or some of your experience that talks about how you have worked in natural resource management. So, how natural resource management and this rural livelihood, how can these things align in your viewpoints? How can we, find opportunities in this whole interaction?
Yeah. First of all, let me congratulate you for organizing this webinar. Frankly speaking, climate change is a neglected topic for everyone, and the effect of the climate change will be the more to the poorest of the poor. Means they will be the first one who are bearing the effects of climate change. But nobody, and everybody wants to speak about climate change, but nobody wants to work on climate change. So yes, as far as NABARD is concerned, we are working in this ecosystem for so many years, almost from 92, when Father Crispino Lobo, I think, from water, they have formed along with Harban Bachar sir. So we have worked with them, and even now we are working with water and all other players who are in this sphere. So we had implemented more than 350 watersheds across India, and almost all the states we had covered, and even today we are implementing watersheds along with other NRM related activities like tribal development, micro everything. There is no projects which we are not implementing. Now relating to the natural resource management, yes, the landscape is changing now. Earlier, it was only the soil and water conservation measures, Now it is mostly towards the natural resource management, covering all the aspects of ecosystem. Over a period of time, it is found that, just I am giving one example of Maharashtra. The land which is under stress is mostly the area which is very prosperous, like Western Maharashtra. Faraz may agree with me. So we are considering Pune, Kolhapur, Satara, Sangli. These lands and these fields are more prosperous, fertile, and everything. But if you look at them from agriculture point of view, then these lands will be the first one which will be degraded over a period of time after some years. And the studies conducted by NIASAM and other research organization, it proved that the land they are in a problem. And the land which we are thinking that कि इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ प्रोडक्टिविटी नहीं है, these lands are better, like the entire Vidarbha belt land or even the Konkan area land. These lands are more fertile. So what it means that where we are taking too much, if we are taking too much from the soil without giving back to the soil and back to the nature, then one day that soil will become a desert. And after how many years, I do not know, I cannot predict, I am not scientist, but that will happen. So we have to take care of soil for our next generation, and all of us have to work collectively, including the research institutions, NGOs, civil society organization, funding agencies, state governments, everybody. Because we have to protect our land for our future generations. And how much to take from soil, it has to be that budgeting. I think Rajendra Jhagade sir has spoken about the budgeting. So that budgeting part, that budgeting do not mean that only the water budgeting. It is even the soil budgeting, because all throughout the year you cannot take a crop from that particular soil. And unluckily, in the Indian context, we are taking same crop from that soil every year. So what is happening? The nutrients, there is no nutrients remains in the soil now. So even if we are implementing watershed projects, that watershed projects may be of 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. After that, what is the fate of that particular area? Because watershed do not mean that some sort of land treatment or soil and water conservation measures for that 1,000 hectares. Because if the entire land is a big watershed, so one watershed is a part of other watershed, one ecosystem is a part of other ecosystem. That's all for time being. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Kumbhare, because this is something that you mentioned, and it's very important that we are taking things for granted. That's okay, this area is fertile, so can utilize it. We can use it for our purpose, and we never know when the land gives up. And I think that is what you were pointing at, and it's very true. And that's why we are here talking about land and water management, that it piecemeal solutions, it will probably work for some time, but we can't guarantee what happens afterwards. And with the changing climate and lots of different factors are changing, the aspiration of the people that are also changing. So how are we coping with it? That is the struggle, I guess. So now, thank you all the panelists, and now I will go for some very targeted questions. So, Mr. Vikram Singh, आपको मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ कि आपके गांव में जब ये वाटरशेड का काम चालू हुआ, एज राजेंद्र जी ने भी बताया कि ये रीच टू वैली, तो ये जो काम है ये बहुत टेक्निकल एक काम है, वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट का जो काम है। तो आपके गांव में जब ये पहले स्टार्ट हुआ, शुरू हो गया, और आप लोगों को ये बताया गया, आपने बताया कि गांव में जितने लोग हैं सब लोग आके मिले जुड़े, कन्विंस हुए और काम करने लगे, लेकिन ये कैसे हुआ? क्योंकि बहुत टेक्निकल चीज है। आपको कैसे समझ में आया कि वो लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं, और आपको ये कैसे समझ में आया कि आपको करना क्या है? ये आप लोगों ने कैसे मैनेज किया?
हेलो,
हेलो,
सुन
यस,
रहे हैं?
हाँ, हाँ, बिल्कुल सुन पा
हाँ,
रहे हैं, बताइए।
ये क्या है मैडम, ये जो आपका वाटर शेड का जो प्रोग्राम आया, ये हमारे हिसाब से हमारी जो प्राकृतिक लैंड है उसके हिसाब से के लिए सही था, इसलिए हम जल्दी समझ गए, क्योंकि हमको पानी की बहुत जरूरत थी। हमेशा बारिश ज्यादा होती थी और पानी बह जाता था, पानी रुकता नहीं था। जो भी कुछ तालाब थे एक दो, उससे हमारा काम चलता था, लेकिन बहुत सारा पानी बह जाता था। लेकिन जब भी इन्होंने बताया वाटर शेड के प्रोग्राम ने, हम पानी कैसे तुम्हारा पानी को कैसे स्टॉप कर देंगे, ये पानी का कैसा फायदा हो जाएगा, मिट्टी कैसे अपनी आप मिट्टी बह रही है, मिट्टी जगह पे कैसे इकट्ठा हो जाएगी, खेती को कैसा फायदा मिलेगा, ये सब बताने के बाद हमारे लोगों को ये बात समझ में आई कि इसमें हमारा ही फायदा है, तो क्यों ना हम इसमें हिस्सा लें। और श्रमदान है, वृक्ष लागवड़ है, ये सब बातें समझ में आ गई और इसका हमको फायदा हुआ। और ना ही कि फायदा हुआ, जब श्रमदान किया तो एक दिन तो श्रमदान करते थे, बाकी दिन जो भी काम करते थे उसका हमें बदला भी मिलता था। हमारे लोग बाहर गाँव जाते थे ना काम करने के लिए। तो ये जो प्रोग्राम आया, तो उससे हमारा रोजंदारी का भी प्रश्न मिट गया, और ये हमारा ही काम हमारे लिए हम करेंगे और उसका लिए हमको मुआवजा भी मिल जाएगा। ये बात सही सही थी और ये आसानी से इन सबको पसंद आई। मतलब ये मैं जो बात कर रहा हूँ ये 25 साल पहले की बात है, 30 साल पहले। तो हमारे पिताजी थे, अभी गुजर गए, लेकिन वो उस समय ये वाटरशेड पाणलोट का समिति था के अध्यक्ष थे। बहुत सारा उन्होंने काम किया। हमारे महाराष्ट्र में अभी हिवरे बाजार, रालेगन सिटी का नाम सब लेते हैं, लेकिन हमारे दुर्भाग्य से उनके यहाँ भी काम नहीं हुआ था, वो काम हमारे यहाँ हुआ। मतलब हमारे यहाँ बायोगैस हो गए, टॉयलेट पूरा हमारे गाँव का हो गया। लेकिन मेरा ग्राम पंचायत जो मेरा करमकरवाड़ी गाँव का है, ये ग्रुप ग्राम पंचायत है, ये इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं था, नहीं तो हम रालेगन सिटी हिवरे बाजार से आगे जा चुके होते। लेकिन चलो वो छोड़ दो, प्रसिद्धि की बात है। लेकिन हमने खुद आपका बहुत ये काम का फायदा लिया। हमारे सभी एक्टिविटीज, जो भी आप वाटर शेड अभी सभी जगह पे बोल रहे हैं ऐसा करना चाहिए वैसा करना चाहिए, और कोई एनजीओ आते हैं और कोई संगठन आती है, लेकिन हम कर चुके हैं। और हम उस काम के जो हमारा इतिहास है, उस काम के आगे लेकर हम अभी भी चल रहे हैं। इसका फायदा हमको बहुत मिल रहा है। अभी मैं सरपंच हूँ गाँव का, मैं जो भी सरकारी स्कीम आती है, मतलब कोई केटी वेयर मिल रहा हो, कोई बंधारा मिल रहा हो, कोई भी काम मिलो पान लोट का, कैसे भी हो, मैं मेरे गांव में लाना चाहता हूँ। और उसका महत्व हमारे गांव वालों को मालूम है। तो कोई किसी की लैंड जा रही हो फिर भी वो विरोध नहीं करता, वो बोलता है पानी अटना चाहिए, पानी रुकना चाहिए। ये आपकी देन है, वाटर शेड की ये देन है। और हमारा गांव अभी सुजलाम सुफलाम हुआ है। ये ये फायदा हुआ है।
थैंक यू विक्रम सिंह जी। और आपने ये जो बोला कि आपके वहाँ पे बायोगैस का है, इसके बारे में आप दो तीन लाइन कुछ कहना चाहते हैं कि इसमें क्या हुआ है?
तो बायोगैस मतलब हमारे यहाँ जो काऊ है, हर घर काऊ का पालन किया जाए, गाय का पालन किया जाए, वो तो नेचुरली है। लेकिन आपका वाटर शेड जब से हुआ है, जब से वो गाय का पालन भी बढ़ गया है। हमारे गोठा बहुत है, काबू शेड बहुत बड़े बड़े हो गए। अभी वो 25 30 40 गाय के भी गोठे यहाँ हैं। लेकिन ये बात 25 30 साल पहले जब शुरू हुआ, उसी वक्त वो गोबर गैस के लिए गोबर चाहिए ना। तो गोबर की वजह से क्या हुआ, हमारी जो माँ बहनें थी, वो कई जंगल में जाती थी, वहां पे लकड़ियां तोड़ के लाती थी, खाना बनाने के लिए, पानी गर्म करने के, जो भी कुछ हो, तो खाने के लिए तो जलाना जरूरी है। तो उसका कोई सुविधा नहीं
हाँ,
थी उस जमाने में। तो वो बायोगैस आने की वजह से, और उसमें हमने टॉयलेट भी अटैच किया है। बायोगैस की वजह से हमको ना गोबर, ये जो गैस होता है अपना सीएनजी, अभी मतलब टंकी का गैस होता है, उसकी कोई जरूरत नहीं पड़ी। हमारी लकड़ी का वो भी बच गया, वृक्ष तोड़ भी ठहर गई, और हमारा पर्यावरण के हिसाब से स्वच्छता जो होती है टॉयलेट, वो भी उससे अटैच हो गया। दुर्गंध भी खत्म हुई, हमारा पर्यावरण के लिए भी जो कुछ चाहिए वो सब अच्छा हुआ, और हमको गैस भी मिल गया, हमारा खाना भी हो गया, और हमारा बचत हो गया। उसका खर्चा ही नहीं ना, गाय का घर का गोबर डालने का सिर्फ, और उसका जो खाद आता है उसके बाहर, वो बहुत अच्छा तरह से खेती के लिए होता है।
हाँ,
जो गोबर होता
हाँ,
है ना,
नहीं कहते
बहुत
हैं हम लोग इस चीज को।
अच्छी तरह से
सही है,
बाहर आता है।
बिल्कुल।
ये फायदे हुए हैं।
बहुत धन्यवाद विक्रम सिंह जी।
मैं इंटरफेयर उसी को एक थोड़ा सा मैं आगे लेके जाता
हाँ
हूँ।
बिल्कुल सर, हाँ बोलिए।
एक सिंधुदुर्ग डिस्ट्रिक्ट है कोकण में. So by same activity, biogas only. So what happened with after the intervention of biogas? That is okay. What Vikram Singh sir has told, it is perfectly all right that the whatever the time they saved from that biogas, they utilize that. Say Sindhudurg women, they utilize that time for rearing the milch animal. And now in every village they have some uh, sorry, in every household they have some five or six milch animal which they have brought from the Haryana, that is Murra, the breed is Murra. तो हर ब्रीड उसमें कुछ in both morning and evening the milk collection is almost 20 liters, and every animal is they are earning some 5 to 6,000 rupees per animal. So the effect is very good what Vikram Singh has told. In addition to that, they have not restricted with the milk producing only. So they have formed one cooperatives, milk cooperatives in each of the village, tie up with the they have tied up with Gokul, and whatever the profit even they are earning, they are distributing among the members only. Thank you.
हाँ, थैंक यू सो मच सर। इसमें से एक और चीज हम लोगों को पता चलता है, वी गेट टू नो समथिंग एल्स, दैट वी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग अबाउट लैंड एंड वाटर मैनेजमेंट, देन वी स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग अबाउट helps in agricultural productivity. We are talking about time saved from there, people staying back in the village. From there, we start talking about livestock management and enhancement. From there, we start talking about biogas and how it enhanced their income, how it changed the social strata or the structure of the society. So we never know how one thing leads to another, how the benefits trickle down, or this cascading effect that we talk about. It's not limited to any singular space, it spreads out. So one change in one place, it can change lots of different things. So Rajendra ji, I would like to ask you one very important question, that you are working in this field for so long and we are talking about sustainability. So what are those factors, वो क्या क्या चीज है जिसके वजह से ये एक लैंड रेस्टोरेशन प्रोजेक्ट या फिर कोई भी वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट काम हो जाने के बाद भी, इन मे बी 2-3 years or 5-6 years, द प्रोजेक्ट इज ओवर, द एनजीओ रिमूव्स देमसेल्व्स फ्रॉम दैट विलेज और दैट एरिया, लेकिन उसके बाद भी फॉर years the benefits are there, it sustains and it keeps on going, the people are still involved in it, they are still invested in this process. तो वो क्या चीज है आपके हिसाब से जो यहाँ पे होता है या फिर देखा जाता है जिसकी वजह से सस्टेनेबिलिटी आता है?
Okay, if you want to answer me in single word, it is community ownership. It's a community ownership of the project, project outcomes, project interventions. Once the community owns the things that has been implemented under the project by any NGO, it's sure for sustainable. Now I would little bit elaborate. I would again go back to the selection criteria where we start from community awareness, because this awareness is a very much becomes a building block and a foundation of any developmental projects to be implemented, where under awareness community is self-realizing that their natural resources, land degradation and everything is there, and they need to repair, in bold words, repair their own things, and it leads to that project intervention effort. So once community is aware, they take lead in implementation, they take lead in planning, implementation, monitoring, and participatory impact monitoring of the outcomes of the project. Then it becomes their own project. It becomes their own project, and they own it. And when I'm saying ownership of the community, it is of every section, every caste, community, religion, and everything. And the project itself undertakes the all-inclusive approach, so that the there is nobody left out of this developmental approach. Everybody is concerned. Like, for example, landless laborers are there in the villages. When there are a lot of debate on this, that when there is a land-based developmental interventions, landless laborers don't benefit. But when we implemented the project, we also taken into account the needs of the landless laborers, and for them to ensure that they get work in the project itself on daily wages. They also given some uh, cows, milch cows, like Hemanji was referring to. They get free fodder from the community-owned lands, like grasslands, and they can sell out milk in the village itself or to the milk collection centers, and they also get the wages. So this kind of care of every section of the society is taken care. Community is owning their own development projects, and also the youth engagement is there, so that knowledge is transformed from one generation to the other generation. And one more thing is that all the interventions undertaken in this project directly leads to the finance. For example, we develop lands, we take care of water availability, water security is there, and we also advise community to have a crop diversifications, not to go for only monocropping or cash cropping. For example, sometimes what happens, if there is a water availability, there is a risk also that people might go for high water required crops like sugarcane, bananas, and all those. So we need to educate how water should be managed once it is available. Otherwise, old days can anytime become again realized. So this kind of thing is there to ask them, advise them to go for water management, avoid monocropping, have a balance between fodder, food, and cash crops. Take care of their finances and also save for their future. So all this, when comes together, all inclusive approach and everything, and when everything is linked to finance, because there is income from agriculture, there is income from crop diversification, there is income from self-help groups, there is income from livelihood approaches, and youngsters who otherwise used to stay in the cities also become involved in the agriculture with their fathers or families. It all helps to sustain the outcomes. And when community realize that it is their project, it is their outcome, and it is for their own benefit, there is no problem of sustainability. That is how I look at it.
Okay, thank you, Rajendra ji. Next question is for Dhruvi. Uh, you mentioned one thing that's very important, that you said that CSR, it's like a catalyst. So when we talk about economic returns from these livelihood projects, or here they are talking about watershed projects, or you are mostly invested in Access and Foundation for rural livelihood projects and promotion of it. So these are the economic returns are often more immediate and quantifiable. But the ecological impacts or the social co-benefits that we talk about, like empowerment or participation or equity, they typically unfold over longer time frames. So as a CSR leader, what is your perspective that how should we approach the assessment of these longer term outcomes in terms of both time and scale? Because this is a challenge that lots of NGOs and civil society organizations are facing, that how do we quantify it? How do we evaluate it? So what's your take on this?
So one, yes, there is a softer change. Livelihood is very easy to count because there is economic return. You can count it every season. You can count it over 2 seasons. You can count it over a project period. You can count it over a financial year. And our entire ecosystem is focused, knows how to do it. Even the community who we work with can make this difference very clearly, right? But that economic return is a great trigger for every other thing. If I do not give what the community desires, where is the space for conversations, right? So measuring it, talking about it is the starting point of everything else. Now, when you say you've started having this return, how do you sustain this over a period of time? And to sustain it is you start collectivizing the community. Uh, and then the steps which are known to everybody here, I'll not get into those steps. Those are the elements of sustainability that start coming in. It is not unknown to people how to measure it. Quantifying that measurement is very difficult. There is something called social return of investment, but it gives vague answers sometimes, and it's not comparable because every community perceives it differently. We also have to understand that all projects, whether they are government projects or CSR projects, are layered. So whatever outcome you see today is also based on past investment in the area, past investment in the people. So you have to keep that in focus. There is no industry standard of quantifying or even qualifying impact, right? Every NGO has a different qualification, and there is so much of competition in qualification is the honestly the problem, because everybody qualifies it differently. So businesses come together when there is a common aspect of communicating certain things. The biggest problem that we face as a civil society setup is we compete for qualification. We don't come together for qualifying certain things, which is where there is no clarity in donors, there is no clarity in the community sometimes, right, of what that outcome is. So the first change has to start as a cohort of organization who work on similar issues, when you have to qualify certain outcomes and impact, and therefore come up with some standardization measurement. Everybody individually knows how much will sustain, how much will not sustain, what are those parameters, how do you even have quantifiable measurements for some of these aspects, the softer aspects. But the problem is we are not together in this, right? So you're constantly comparing apple and oranges. So until we come together as an industry, we are going to confuse people more and more, and therefore steer away from the main thing which we need to do, is to look at sustainability, let's say at a landscape level, right? This is a big hindrance when we have to talk of a landscape, because landscape has many stakeholders. It's just thousands of projects, so many villages. So how are you going to be able to quantify impact when you don't have same parameters? So yeah, I'll stop with that. I can talk a lot, but
No, that's a very interesting to listen to it, but sadly we have to move forward. If we
yeah,
have
so
time, we'll come back to you.
we don't like
Yeah.
to talk about our internal challenges, but that's a
Yeah,
big challenge.
but yes, I mean, we are kind of utilizing this platform to talk about challenges as well, because this is something that we also face. Because we also face challenges because we talk about collective action, and at the very same time, when we have very different parameters and there is no parity in the parameters, then we don't know how to reach that collective action or how to converge. This convergence, it's very important, and how to do that. That is the challenge. I think Rajendra ji will agree. Hemant ji will also agree that converging things, all different entities, is the major challenge here. Mr. Kumbhare, Hemanji, we are coming back to you. Sir, you were working in all these different states for so long. So, when we talk about this land degradation, it's a severe problem nowadays in India. And NABARD's work is focused on rural economy and agriculture. And with your experience in farm sector development, how do you see NABARD's role in addressing the problem? I mean, this is a policy on policy level or in the government schemes are there, but how do you see your role in it?
Let me start where Dhruvi madam ends, because she is right when she says that I think she looks even very helpless. Huh. Yeah, we are working independently. Most of us are working independently, trying to gain some brownie points. But then, yes, it is true that the soil or the entire watershed, entire area, it belongs to one nature only. We have divided that land in different parts for our own benefits. That is the cruelty. And then everybody can claim that yes, it is due to my intervention something happened. But what about the long term sustainability of the soil and fixing the parameter? Yes, it is. I agreed with Madam Shah that yes, it is required to fix some long-term parameters. But then, if the results comes out, and if that results is shocking, then as a community or as a policy maker, as a part of any institutions, we must accept that yes, again something need to be done. Regarding your question, yes, uh, nowadays constantly working with the community over a period of time. We are redefining or modifying our guidelines according to the need of the external factors. Like earlier, we are more concerned with the soil and moisture conservation, soil and water conservation. Now we have shifted towards more good agriculture practices, crop resilient varieties, natural resource management, even the water management. Water budgeting is a separate thing, but even the water management, even water, for example, I am giving you one small example. Everybody is facing a problem with water. Like you take the example of Kolhapur, there is a excess water. You take the example of Marathwada, there is a less water. So both the farmers are facing a problem. Marathwada farmers, they are facing a problem for low rainfall. Kolhapur farmers, I think most of the panelists, they are from Maharashtra only, say they know the geography. So Kolhapur, there is almost 2000 mm of water on an average every year. So they are facing that problem every year. So then the ultimate results are saline soil, alkaline soils, some degraded soils, वगैरह. That is part of again the vicious ecosystem. So my point is, one policy across one state cannot be a solution. Every region requires, even within one district, requires a different approach for the same project. uh, Same project. So as a policy at a national level, we are changing our guidelines, our style of implementing the projects. We are becoming more nature based now, introducing the other aspects like climate, like soil, like input cost. So we are using that model. But yes, it is true that I am again going back to Dhruvi, madam. Yes, at a national level, we must remain one. Then only better things can be possible. Yes, it is not that I am not. I do not want to say that we are not doing anything. Yes, everybody is doing their part, but then collectively we are not coming together at one platform and devising something which is better for that particular area. That is required. I truly agree with Dhruvi ma'am again.
Yeah, sir. Now I will just come back to one very singular and important question to all of you, all four of you. Uh, so it all boils down to one thing, that is the convergence. We know that it's important. We know that we have to address it. We need everything, and in bits and pieces, we all have different things. Now, when we ask you about convergence, different entities all coming together, then how do you look at it? The convergence, Dhruvi, it's for you. How do you look at convergence for sustainability?
Again, see, convergence is also layered, right? Uh, and it has multiple perspectives can come.
Continue.
So convergence, let me take an example. I'm in REGA. We have a state level arrangement wherein we are able to leverage through the GPDP for individual productive assets, because that is what MNREGA now promotes, which has a direct benefit on the income, but not necessarily the landscape, right? The second level of convergence, again through the SRLM ecosystem, is to leverage the SRLM ecosystem, support it for livelihood benefits. So that is second level of outcomes that we look at. Now, if we have to add the two and then add a ecosystem landscape approach, today the policy is not supporting that. The policy is not asking you to do it. Intentionally, the community may want to do it, and how do you encourage the community to look at it is maybe when the climate change adaptation plans start getting into the system, which it will soon, then there is a larger possibility of faster acceleration. But until then, I feel a lot of it will be driven by community stewardships. So as a catalytic funder, what is it that we can do? Again, CSR, whether we do it as Axis, or can we drive community stewardship for better land and forest water management? So that is the space I see until the climate change adaptation policies, once they start shaping up on the grassroots, will be a bigger opportunity for us to look at that. But by then, if we have some pilots ready, it will be faster. Faster.
Yeah, so I will come to Mr. Kumbhare with the same question. That what do you think about convergence?
Implementation.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, convergence. I think it is a again at the policy level. I am again taking forward the Dhruvi ma'am's view. At the national level, we have to be on one platform wherein everybody, whoever wants to do something for the climate change. Now, soil and water conservation is a part of natural resource management only, or the climate change only. So now the goal shifted towards the climate change. It is not only the soil and water. Again, the other parts, in climate change, and everything is in climate change. Even your air pollution, water pollution, everything is part of now the climate change. So at a national level, we have to form one entity or one platform where everybody who wants to work in that particular sphere, they will contribute. But within that within that gray areas only. Like, I will give one small example. Like in Rajasthan. So the entire Rajasthan cannot the we are assuming that entire Rajasthan is dry area, but maybe some part of Rajasthan is wet area. Some part of Rajasthan, not this one. So the requirement in that particular region will be identified by a research institute and other correlated institute, and the requirement of that particular area, particular district, particular village may be identified. And then if CSR wants to work in that particular village, so they will work on that particular aspects only. If NABARD, other state government agencies, central government agencies, even the foreign donor, if everyone will be welcome to work in that particular areas, but on that 4, 5 or 6, 7 vulnerable points only. So can it be possible? Yeah, it will be possible. Let's hope that something like one nation, one tax. So something like that will come out. Let us hope.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. So, Rajendra ji, coming back to you, we are continuously talking about convergence and how we need to have a policy change or change in the outlook to implement all these changes. So, coming back to you, Rajendra ji, you have worked in this field for so long. So, what are all these supports that you might need as a practitioner who is actually implementing it in the field? Like it can be the policy change or better quality or different types of capacity building or better outreach, different types of funding or pooled funding, more time to implement a project. So what all do you need as a practitioner to make it happen?
Okay, before answering your question, Sharanya, I would just like to touch a bit to what Dhruvi and Hemant Saab has said, that convergence, that was whole thing we were just listening to both of them, is what Hemant Kumbhare Saab said is there might be an identification of particular area where all agencies can work together. It may happen at national level, state level, whatever. While I would agree that such identification would help in a great way, but whether all the donors, whether it is CSR or foreign countries also will also match with the requirements of that particular area, that would need to be looked at in the future when it comes. But this looks to be a very good idea where one, I would say, nodal agency can identify an area across the nation where different support is needed, financial supports or community development support is needed, and then it can at least help to development practitioners as well as the donors and funders and even NABARD to channelize their funding and to ensure that the development, what is expected is goes on the expected lines. Now, coming back to your question, I would say that what from development practitioners' point of view, what is needed is funding which is flexible. When I am saying flexible, it means we should be able to identify the interventions needed for that particular village, for that particular community, and for that particular area. That much flexibility is needed. Sometimes what happens, there are donor priorities, and in that particular area, the needs are different. So that flexibility will help us to help the community. The project timelines, project cycles. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You are. Please continue.
Yes. So project timelines are being shrinked. So earlier it was 5 years project. Now more or less the projects are of 3 years, or sometimes even annual budgeting patterns they are coming. So shorter time duration project are very difficult to realize the outcomes expected in that particular period. So if we have a little bit longer duration projects, that would be great to entirely realize the expected outcomes within the project period, and that can be measured, outcomes can be documented, and the whole success story can be put into public domain to see how the things have changed. So particularly to your question, longer duration projects with flexible funding would be the development practitioners ideal thing to be needed to have.
Thank you, Rajendra ji. Uh, what I hear is what you talk about is one nodal agency, but at the very same time, what everyone is talking about is we have very different problem in very different locations within the same ecosystem, same block, same village. They might be having different problems. So the problem
Yes.
identification should happen from the ground level, but the implementation and but there should be one nodal agency, but it should have the flexibility. Lots of things to do, we have lots of things to do. So if I ask you that all of you, all four of you, can you just mention in one sentence probably one key point that you want it to be out there? We say that it should be viral. So that one thing that should be viral in this world right now, according to you, in one sentence probably, what would you say? हाँ. And Mr. Kalamkar, आप विक्रम सिंह जी, हम पूछ रहे थे कि अभी हम लोगों ने बहुत कुछ डिस्कस किया है यहाँ पे, बहुत सारी चीज़ों के बारे में बात किया है। तो आप एक सेंटेंस में, आपके पास एक सेंटेंस है, आप उसमें ऐसा कुछ बताना चाहते हैं जो आपने देखा है, सीखा है और आप लोग चाहते हैं कि हम लोग भी उसको फ़ॉलो करें या फिर इसके बारे में सोचें, जो आपका लर्निंग है, ये पूरा जो आपका एक्सपीरियंस है वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट के बारे में, एक सेंटेंस कुछ, 1 पॉइंट।
कितनी भी तरक्की हो जाए, कितनी भी टेक्नोलॉजी आ जाए, लेकिन वाटरशेड के बिना जो गांव है, हमारा महाराष्ट्र है, हमारा इंडिया है, वाटरशेड के बिना अधूरा है। जो भी कितना भी काम करेगी वो अधूरा ही है। मतलब कैसे काम है, वाटरशेड का प्रोग्राम आ जाता है, उसके बाद कोई करेगा तो 5-10 साल के बाद वो खत्म हो जाता है। इसलिए सालों साल एक टर्म के बाद उसकी जरूरत है, और एनवायरनमेंट के लिए भी जरूरत है, अपने हेल्थ के लिए भी जरूरत है, खेती के लिए भी जरूरत है। सभी मतलब जो हमारा जीवन है ग्रामीण भाग का, उसके लिए ये सबसे जरूरी है, ये मैं बताऊं।
Thank you so much, Vikram Singh ji. Dhruvi, one key takeaway point from all
Yeah,
those things.
I will not say what is viral because viral has a very short shelf life. I think two things I would like to say, not one. One is at least people who are working on watershed, a little more information sharing on who's working where. It's time that we have that. And second is anything that you do, if you start measuring one common indicator for all, right? Water, for example, because that's the base for everything. I think we need to have, in a very simple way, some form of common measurements to start the realization for this need to work together. So that's that two things I would like to say.
Rajendra ji.
Yes, Father Walker, I have been fortunate to work with Father Walker. So he used to say one Marathi sentence, "Dushkalala panlota shivay paryay nahi." So that would be still valid even today. That if we want to fight the drought, we need to have a systematic integrated watershed development. Uh, all things coming together, weather, converge, everything. But the same things even still valid today. And I would just add, engage next generation in this for sustainability. That is my addition.
Mr. Kumbhare, one key takeaway point.
And I think climate resilient infrastructure. Why it is so? Because yeah, climate is changing. It is true. We have to live with the climate change process. So we have to develop the climate resilient infrastructure. I'm giving one small example to do a small example to elaborate my point. Like in Maharashtra, again, this time the rain starts something around 20-25 days before the monsoon season. So there is a good impact or bad impact for the for that rains. That is again a big question mark. But yes, it is true that it is costing a on negative side. There is an impact, but when the community and the project which is developing or develop the watershed, they are in a better position to cope up this challenge. How? Since if even if even if the monsoon starts early, then what they will do, because they have that experience and knowledge and capacity, that they will judge, yes, now the the monsoon starts early, so we have to take our operations very fast. So they will not wait for further any agro advisory. So what they will do, they if they are the farmers of paddy, they will directly sow the paddy in the field, without raising a nursery. So what will they gain from the traditional farmers? That their crop, they will fetch early crop, and that loss they can be minimized. So this climate resilient infrastructure we have to develop in almost every sphere. Maybe in drought, maybe in unseasoned rains, maybe too much of production, maybe less production, on every sphere. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And so it's almost the time to wrap it up. And I appreciate you all for being on time. I mean, this is amazing. And thank you once again to all for you the valuable insights and grounded perspectives. So if there are any questions from the participants, you can raise the questions, or you can simply raise your hands and we will get back to you. Do any of you have any question? So you have 5 minutes to ask questions, and then we'll start wrapping it up. So just think about it. So we have had a very insightful and thought-provoking discussion on different issues. We are not directly just talking about watersheds here, but we are also talking about integrated or holistic land and water management and the need of the whole thing. And through all this time when we are discussing it, it was just reinforced that effective land management or land restoration, it requires integrated planning. It also requires some parity in the parameters, long-term institutional support. There needs a flexible uh, funding, and also community ownership that was highlighted by all of you. So the question remains that how do you reach there? And it's probably a platform where we shared our views and our doubts and also thoughts. So going forward with that, I would like to invite Dr. Marcela D'Souza to share her reflections on the way forward. So yeah.
Before that, can I ask one question to Dhruvi ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Since she is representing CSR wing, ma'am,
Yes, definitely.
how can a financial institution and CSR can come together as a partner, according to your views, maybe your personal views?
Sir, CSR does not, I mean, the law is so strict on us not working with businesses. So there is no way we can work together.
Correct.
We keep that distance away from each other.
Hmm.
There is a role that finance can play, and finance comes in various forms, which is why I said CSR is a catalytic fund. But for a CSR fund to work with banks, the CSR laws don't allow. So we can't work with our own bank.
I can again further say simplify my own questions.
Sure.
Like maybe it will be helpful to my bank. Like we have a big project, and even that in that big project there is maybe one small component where CSR can be accommodated, or even CSR is willing to be a part of that one.
Right, sir.
Whether such type of arrangements within the existing institutional framework can be possible.
I think so, sir. So today also, like I said, we use our funds as catalytic fund. So a lot of our projects complement, NABARD projects and our projects complement each other on the ground, and it is done at the NGO level or at the community level.
Good, thank you.
So that happens, but yes, there can be more strategic conversation or alignment that can happen between the two organizations, and we are in conversation with different departments of NABARD.
Thank you. Welcome, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So, all right, I think now there is no echo. This has been a very, very interesting conversation. I really have to say, it was not just a panel, giving some presentations, but rather a conversation that went into a dialogue, which has been a very rich dialogue. And, listening to this entire conversation, beginning from Bikram Singh ji, and talking of it from the 25 years of his experience and what he holds today, is something that is very important, because that's where most of rural India is. 69% of our country is in the arid and semi-arid regions, dependent on rainfall. However, having come from there, and the important question that Dhruvi raised in this conversation was, how do we identify that common parameter that tells us here is how we are achieving and we are reaching the goal we want to? I think this is something extremely important that we need to see how we converge onto this common outcome. I would like to call it an outcome because it is more than just individual aspects and components, but that which converges to make it a sustainable whole. Having said this, I have to admit that today, climate change is the driver. Whether we like it or not, it is driving us to think the way we need to think and look at sustainability from that aspect, climate change. On the other hand, there is this other conversation that we are here, and a goal that we are hearing on, an approach rather. We talk about nature-based solutions, because more and more the conversation is on how do we align and flow with nature so that nature can sustain us as we go along? Because we also hear another conversation that says, in the next few years, I will not put the year that will be coming ahead. In the next X years, 70% of India will be urban. The question is, what then happens to our rural landscapes? What then happens to the food and water and the food and water that we need that sustains rural urban areas? What happens? Will there be that many livelihoods that we will sustain? Or does the thinking need to shift? And that comes to the common agenda of how do we protect our natural resources? How do we look at it from, flowing with nature, therefore looking at nature-based solutions, and so that they can sustain us? And this was where Vikram Singhji actually mentioned what they are finding and what has sustained them over the 25 years. And I have to say it's more than 25 years that they have done it. And they see that their village is productive, gives them living and livelihoods, giving us what we need. And they have looked at it in a very ecologically sound way. I want to say a word over here. When we talk about nature-based solutions, there are different ways, either independent activities or even certain holistic approaches. And ecosystem-based adaptation is one approach that flows with nature and is a very aligned nature-based solution. So if we are looking at restoration of lands and our degraded lands and adapting to climate change, we need to align with nature. That is why for us in water, we said, let's look at how the landscape is. Align with that landscape, with the forests, with the water ecosystem, with the ecology, with the soil health. The agroecology and the soil health is so important. And every one of these are bits and pieces in this big jigsaw puzzle. So as I look at it going ahead, I want to share also, why did we come about this ecosystem-based adaptation, having come from land and water management along watershed lines, from ridge to valley, and it sustains. This came about when we had a series of discussions on how do we sustain ourselves tomorrow. And it was in over a 2-year period from 19 to 21, with a number of various stakeholders from central government at state level, NGOs, researchers, etc. We realized in the discussions that nature-based solutions is extremely important for our survival. And this is what the UN's ecosystem restoration by 2030. We look at it and we found that aligning it with ecosystems as they are within the landscape is what we need to take forward to sustain us. That was when we also established a collaborative called ECOBARI. It's ecosystem, B is for based adaptation for resilient incomes, because we believe that if we have resilient incomes, our sustainability is assured tomorrow. And this is what the whole conversation has been about. It has been a very rich conversation, and I have to say, difficult to put together. But I think it is also a beginning. We need to relook at how we are looking at climate change, the drivers, the external factors, and also sustainability for tomorrow. We probably need to come together to redefine how do we make it easier. When we were talking about one parameter or one outcome, we were actually talking about what is this one aspect that we can all understand so that we can bring our bits and pieces in all this is it needs to reach the rural communities. We realize in the conversation today, we cannot go forward except by more and more stakeholder engagements. With each of us in our different roles and our different strengths and our different abilities to put in those bits and pieces that can make our rural landscape and our urban landscape sustain the climate factors that we are going to continuously have to adapt to. Here is the role that all of us can play. NABARD, as a government institution, the government stakeholders at the center and state levels, civil society organizations, corporates, the CSR and ESG aspects, and the rural community at the center of this entire gamut of sustainability is the rural community. They know their landscape. All of us need to work together in research, in implementation, in contribution of our bits and pieces to make this sustain for tomorrow. So on behalf of ECOBARI, I would like to thank you, every one of you, Mr. Kumbare, Dhruvi Shah, Rajendra Sagre, Vikram Singhji, Faraz, and Sharanya, and Sanika, and every one of the participants who have participated in this lively conversation. I want to also share that we're going to document this and put it out like a nice article because it was an extremely rich and very valuable conversation that we need to take forward. Thank you very much. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you as we go ahead. Thank you.